So, good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the first Foróige Career Coaching Clinic. This is an exciting initiative that has been put together by Foróige to provide young people with an opportunity to attend events where they can learn about careers and professions that they may be interested in. Foróige is a leading youth organisation engaging 1 in 10 young people in Ireland. Foróige encourages young people to take responsibility for themselves and to be part of shaping the world around them. You can get involved through your local club, or you can avail of one of the many programmes Foróige offers, like youth leadership or climate justice. If you would like to find out more, please visit www.foróige.ie, or we have put a link in the chat that you can click on to register if you are interested in getting involved. With us tonight for our Working with Animals and Veterinary webinar, we are joined by Mcgrath, Owen Lowry and Andrew Corbett. Owen is Head of Agriculture with Bank of Ireland. He is an MBA from the Smurfit Business School and holds a Master's in Agricultural Science. Owen is from a farming background and has spent many years working in the fertiliser industry also. Mcgrath from County Wicklow has worked all his adult life on the family farm. A 5th generation farmer, he has completed his Green Cert with Teagasc, and he's a qualified welder and also has a truck licence. Finally, we have Andrew Corbett, who holds a degree in veterinary science from UCD, and he has been working since graduating in mixed animal practice. So how's it going to work tonight? With a mixture of presentations and interviews, each panelist will share their professional story. After each person has spoken, we will have a Q&A session. You will notice along the bottom of your screen, there is an opportunity to open the Q&A feature. We strongly encourage all of you to use the Q&A and ask lots of questions. Things that you might want more information on, or maybe something you'd like clarified that one of the speakers said. First up tonight, we will have Sho, and Sho has kindly agreed to let me interview him. After that, we will have Owen and then Andrew. After each panelist speaks, Jim will pose the questions on your behalf to them. And he will sort through them, and perhaps group them. So your own question may not be asked directly, but the opportunity will be that we get as many of the questions done as time allows. You'll also notice down the bottom of your screen that we have a chat box. So if you have any feedback on the event or any comments you'd like to make, especially towards the end, please feel free to share them and use that chat function. At the end of the webinar, and after all the speakers are finished, we will be running a poll to evaluate it. It will only take a minute. There's 3 quick questions, so we really appreciate for our own selves if you would join in that poll just to give us some information. So that's it, everyone. Let's get started. As I said, first up tonight we have Mcgrath, and Sho is a dairy farmer from County Wicklow. And just a reminder to use the Q&A box. So, Sho, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
Great. So thanks a million for joining the show. I suppose we might just start off, Sho, with maybe a little bit about yourself, little information about your farm, and, well, we know you grew up on a farm, but like, how come you chose to be a farmer and not do something else?
Okay, hi Bernie. Well, yeah, I've been farming pretty much all my life. We run a 250 cow dairy farm, and we have two farms. One where we milk the cows, and another one where we wear the dry stock. What else? Yeah, I've. What else do you want me to go say, Bernie? Sorry.
I suppose maybe why did you choose to be a farmer?
I think I guess I always really wanted to Bernie. I couldn't hack it if my dad would go off in a Jeep when I was a kid and didn't bring me. I always wanted to be with him and up the yard and open a tractor or around and after cows or whatever. So I kind of always knew that I'd end up at it.
Okay. Yeah. And like you obviously went off to secondary school and all of that. So when you finished secondary school, did you just start farming at that stage?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Right. Very good.
Around yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
So, you know, for anyone who's listening today who might, you know, not know a whole lot about, say, dairy farming, would you like to tell us, is there a typical day or is every day different?
There's the only thing that's the same about the dairy farmer each day is the fact that the cows have to get milked twice morning and evening. Some farms even milk them 3 times, but more common that they milk them twice. So first job in the morning is to get your cows in and get them milked, and then you do. Every day is different. It depends on the weather. It depends on the seasons. It depends on how many people you have with you that day. It depends on a whole lot of things. And the best made plans of a day can change in a heartbeat on a farm, you know. So there's no real 2 days the same. But, you know, you could be doing a myriad of different tasks. You could be fixing a water pump, or you could be driving a digger, or you could be calving a cow, or you could be dealing with a sick animal, or you could be mending a fence. There's, you know, you need to be jack of all trades to be a farmer.
That's true. Obviously there's really busy times of the year. I'm assuming this is probably around this time, your busy time?
Yeah, we calve most of our cows in the spring, and things are starting to ease off a little bit now, but we have nearly all our cows calved, and that's really our busiest time, because, you know, it's a day and night. You have to keep an eye on your cows, and then you've got all these baby calves around the place that have to, you know, need care and attention, and you know, they're babies, so you kind of really have to really nurture them along to get them going. So that is our busiest time, really. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no rest for the wicked.
Well, yeah, like you say, it's a long day, but again, you have to get some sort of rest, or
you do. Of course you do.
Yeah.
And so, you know, obviously you've done other things that have improved your ability to farm. Like you did some courses. Did you do the Green Cert?
I did the Green Cert, yeah, and I did well.
You might just show what that is briefly.
That's an agricultural qualification that qualifies you as a farmer, basically. And if you don't have that qualification, you're not entitled to any grants or various reliefs and stuff that are in place. So it's pretty much a basic course in farming, basically, that you need to classify yourself as a qualified farmer.
Okay, and do you have to have land to do that?
Not that I know of. I don't think so, no.
Okay, so you can just do your Green Cert, and yeah, okay. And was there any other courses that you did down through the years that, say, somebody listening now would find helpful or interesting if they wanted to try and get into farming?
But I suppose any qualification would be beneficial to farming. Like if you had a business qualification or anything like that, it all would be of benefit to you if coming into the agricultural industry or being a farmer. Because like I said earlier, it is a business, and there's, like, you literally have to be a little of everything to succeed as a farmer.
Yeah, and that struck me there, actually. Like, I mean, if you have quite a large farm, or I suppose any size of a farm, there is a certain level of accounts and maintaining records and stuff like that. And I know we might hear from Andrew later. He might, you know, chat about that, the importance of record keeping with medicines and all of that.
Yeah, well, I didn't really do much computers in school and stuff, so I went off and I did my ECDL to get me up and running with computers, because I keep all my records and do a lot of stuff, same as everyone, online on the computer. I keep my, you know, medicine records and calving dates and all that. It's all up on the computer. So that was one of the courses I did.
And, you know, I'm just thinking, Joe, there's probably young people here tonight who mightn't come from a farming background and who might say, gosh, I'd really love to be involved in agriculture, but I don't have land and I may not have access to a farm. Are there other jobs that you think that, or you are aware of, say, that, like, people that you might get in on the farm to help you out, or there's jobs that you have to engage and pay people to do that are not, like, as a farmer, but are agricultural related?
Of course. Well, just as an aside to that, my part-time staff we have a full-time employee that has been on the farm for 40 years, and he came out from work experience in Arklow, the local town, to my father, and never left. And he was from the town, and he pretty much manages the herd for me day to day, and he's like invaluable member of staff, like better than anyone that ever came from a farm. And I have a couple of part-time guys. One guy, he's a transition year. Another guy did his leaving cert last year. Both not from farms, and both excellent at working with stock and machinery and everything, because they had an interest in it. And they both doorstepped me and asked me any chance of a start. And I said, look, I gave them a go, and it worked out great. But there are 101 ancillary jobs that go with farmers, like you could be a sales rep, you could be the guy that pairs the cow's feet, you could, there's a mechanic, an agricultural mechanic, let's say, and you would be working on a farm but not as a farmer, if you know what I mean. So there's loads of opportunities there too, if you don't have a farm, but you can still be working on a farm.
And just something struck me there, Joe, that you said that those two young people doorstepped you. They came out and they asked you, if it was work for them. And I suppose that might be a message we might like to get across, that, if there were people who were interested to maybe just find someone who might give them some work.
I don't know any farmer who wouldn't give someone a chance or a go if they came out and they were enthusiastic about helping out and having a go and having a look, see what it's like, because there's always something to be done on the farm.
Okay. Just going to change the topic slightly, Joe. I mean, I was chatting to you yesterday, and I know something you're quite passionate about is animal welfare and keeping your animals healthy and cared for. Is that something, you maybe want to share with us, or things that you might do on the farm, and how, for young people who are listening, that if that's really, really important?
Yeah, well, I think, society and the public are demanding this now, and they're expecting farmers and everyone involved in the industry to follow best practice and to respect the animals, and like, even like, we have to keep all records of all our medicines now. There's quality assured schemes are being pushed by the creameries and by Board BIA and all these things, and these are, there really is a big emphasis on animal welfare now. Like, we have someone calls to our place once a week, and we deal with any cows that are lame, and we never hesitate to ring the vet if in doubt about anything. We just pick up the phone and do it. We don't leave anything to chance. We like I said, we follow best practice, and we pride ourselves on looking out for our animals, because at the end of the day, when we do that, they do that back for us. And
of course, no, that's great. We talked there a few minutes ago about how busy it is, but a good work-life balance, do you think it's important, and to take breaks?
It's very important, and I don't mind paying somebody to milk the cows for me on a Sunday or a Saturday evening if I want to go away somewhere. Look at it. It's just, I suppose I have more cows than the average herd, which maybe makes it easier for me to be able to afford to bring in some staff, because I see some people, they don't do that, and they work night and day, and that's not good for anyone. I have a young family and a wife, and it's nice to take off on a Saturday evening or a Sunday, or take the weekend off altogether and go somewhere. Well, please God, that'll happen again when things go back to normal, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
No, but it's very important, and a farm can become all consuming, and you can get tangled up, and you can feel like, there's no end to it, because, like I said earlier, there's always something to be done,
Yeah, and it's probably true, as you said, there's always something to be done, and it's maybe about teaching yourself that there is a cut-off time, because you could stay working, I'm sure, till 11 o'clock every night if you wanted. Yeah,
well, we start here on my farm in the morning at 7 o'clock, and bar we're doing something like silage, or there's something that the weather's against us, something, 9 times out of 10 I'm down home from my dinner at 6 o'clock, and that's me for the evening, unless there's a cow calving or whatever. So we finished at 6, so you do 12-hour day.
Yeah, but I was going to say that it's still like a long day.
The other thing about farming is, like, there's no commute to work, And if you want to go home for an hour or take 2 hours for your lunch break, you can't. You know, you're around your family, even though might be working. You're by them, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, no, that's true. I suppose the last question I have for you, Sho, if you could go back 20 years, maybe a bit more, since you've been in school. Or as is there anything you might have done differently, or there's anything you might change that, advice that you might give to some of them here?
Yeah, I tell you, if I was doing my Leaving Cert in May, I think what I'd do is I would go and train and become maybe a woodwork teacher or a metalwork teacher or something like that. And I probably could have worked at that for maybe 10 or 15 years after school while my dad was younger and was able to do more. Mm-hmm. But now, even if I had done that now, I wouldn't be able to do it now at the age I am. Mm-hmm. But and I could have tailored my farming to suit my, let's say, the teaching career, where maybe not be a dairy farmer or and run the two things, because teachers have a lot of time off and summers and whatever. Like, so I could have done the two together.
Yes.
Yeah, you could. So I probably would have given myself, if I look back at it now, that's the thing I would have changed.
Yeah, but everything else you're quite happy with.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
Would I recommend working in agriculture?
Mm-hmm.
If you are interested in it, then I would recommend it. If you're not interested in it, then just forget it. Go do something that you are interested in. It's outdoor practical work. It's nice. I like it, but like I say, if you want to find out about it, knock on a farmer's door and have a go.
Okay, great. Thanks a million, Sho. I'll hand over to Jim now and see if anything has come in on the Q&A. Well done.
Thanks, Barney.
Thanks very much. That was very interesting and enlightening, and kind of scary to think back of my early days growing up on the farm. We grew up on the dairy farm as well, and I remember my dad always used to say, "I'm married to these cows." Do you feel the same, Sho?
A bit. Sometimes it can become all consuming, but especially this time of the year when, you're getting tired and ragged from just all the going of it, but then when the weather gets better and the herds settle down and they're all out at grass and all, it kind of becomes easy street then, But look, you can feel married to them all right, because it is, 7-day-a-week job at the end of the day.
I have a few questions in here. Somebody's asking me, what's your favorite time to be a farmer? What season is your favorite season to be a farmer?
The summertime, of course, because all the cows are out and they're feeding themselves and they're eating the grass, and the days are long and the weather's good, and it's
come on, Sho, spit it out. It's easier, isn't it? Summer is easier.
It's way easier, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so listen, you touched on the Green Cert there. Somebody wants to know, where did you do your Green Cert and how long did it take you?
Ballyhays is 1 year up in Cavan.
1 year in Cavan. And did that involve work placement as well?
Yeah, I did. I placement on the local farm here as well, yeah.
And was there anyone in your class that didn't come from an agricultural background?
I'm trying to think back now. I think there was. I can't rightly remember, Jim, to be honest.
I know, it's a long time ago, Sho. I won't push it now. Yeah. Being a farmer, is there any professional associations that you're part of?
Yeah, I'm in the IFA, the Irish Farmers Association. They represent us fairly well at government level and EU level as well. I was actually chairman of the local Arklow branch for 8 years.
Very good, excellent. Very good. And what do you get up to? What is the IFA about? What do you do?
You probably hear us on the news shouting about bad prices or whatever, or protesting, driving tractors up to the Dáil and things like that. That's where we make the headlines sometimes. But really, behind the scenes, IFA lobby the government and try and influence government policy in the favour of the farmer on the ground, basically.
Sure, just between myself and yourself, with all the protests and everything like that, is there actually money in farming?
You can knock a living out of it, all right.
Well, you're the first farmer to admit that now. Okay. Listen, Sho, thanks a million. That's all the questions that came in there for you. And I'm sure if anyone else comes up with any other questions, again, put them into the whenever there's more coming in there. Right. The very important question from Dara. What tractor do you have?
I have 3 tractors. I have an old Ford 7610 that my father bought brand new in 1989, and we still have it. And I have New Holland, and I have a case. Big ones, 150 horsepower ones.
So there's definitely money in farming then, you're saying.
No, they're old. They're 03 and 09, so I could do it a new one.
Kaylee is saying, has Sho ever had other animals on a farm, on his farm, other than cows?
Yeah, I've had sheep before, but never, only just lambs and fattened the lambs. I never had ewes and that lambs. I just bought in sheep and fattened them in the winter and sold them again. But I did that for a couple of years, but not in recent times.
Okay. Here's one advice for Adam. I have a farm, but I want to go to Agri College, but I don't want to do the family farm. I want to start my own farm independently and then maybe join with my brother when he takes over the farm. Do you have any advice for me?
Well, I don't, unless you've got very deep pockets, you won't be able to go and buy a farm and make a profit from it. But what there are always opportunities to get in like that. There's share milking opportunities. Actually, there's a full page in the Farmers Journal every week dedicated to people who are either retiring, looking for someone to come in and take on, like I say, a profit sharing venture, or people who want to join forces with someone to maybe let someone do today running and, like I say, share. But that people are getting into it that way. That's very popular over New Zealand way. They call it share milking. But so maybe that would be the way to go. But as regards to try and borrow the money to buy a farm, to stock it and to get up and get going at it, you'd be a long time before you'd be turning a profit, I think.
Okay. But you can always get, if Adam goes and gets the experience from Ag College and gets the experience on large farms, like yourselves, Sho, you give opportunities to young people to build up their experience, that they can actually go then and start up their own venture themselves.
Yeah.
Very good. What would be the best thing to kick off a farm?
To start a farm?
Yeah. What would you do to go about starting up a farm?
Well, you need some land first, so you'd have to go and rent yourself some land first, and then you'd have to get yourself some stock. So, well, you'd probably first of all you'd have to go and visit the bank manager, I suppose.
Absolutely, I think we all need to go visit the bank manager. There's an interesting question in here from an anonymous. What do you think of women in agriculture? That could be from your wife.
I am all for it, and as a matter of fact, one of my part-time milkers is a girl, and also just she too is from the town, and she got into milking when she was in Australia on her year out, and in order to stay longer in Australia, she had to have an agri job to extend her visa, and she was milking a herd of 500 cows over there for 6 months. And when she came back to Ireland, she came out to me and asked me, did I have any work for her? And she's perfect. She's brilliant at the job, and also just there's I think there's 4 or 5 vets in our local practice, and 3 of them are women. There's once a month we milk record our cows, and it's a woman that comes to do that. Like every farm has, certainly if you're doing work, there'll be a woman in cooking. I'm not saying that's what women should be doing, but like behind every farmer's wives do an awful lot too. They feed calves and they bring the kids to school and allow the farmer to do his job, but women in agriculture are huge.
Thanks a million. Listen, I'll try and answer some more questions at the end of the session tonight. I'll hand it back to Bernie. Thank you very much, Sho.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Jim and Sho. So now, guys, we are going to hear from Owen. And as I said already, Owen is Head of Agriculture with Bank of Ireland. So Owen is going to do a presentation. As with Sho, if you think of any questions as we're going through, make sure you hop them in to the Q&A box, and Jim will do those then after Owen has finished his presentation. So I hand it over to yourself now, Owen.
Okay, thanks, Bernie. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to get an opportunity to talk to you this evening. Obviously, I'd prefer to be doing this in a physical setting. It'd be much easier, as I could see. But look, we'll make our best in the times that we live in. Firstly, I've given the title of this talk, Be Different, and I hope it will become apparent as to why as I go through my talk. You'll see my Twitter handle there if anyone wants to come in and get in contact with me afterwards or whatever. So look, my aim is not to document my career and life story to you here, but hopefully to impart some of my experience and inspire you as to how I have progressed through my career and how it might help shape your own future. I believe this is a really exciting time for you, and the world is really your oyster, whether you realize it or not at this stage in your careers. So I'm going to bring you through my career journey so far, and then I'm going to reflect and ask myself what advice I'd give my 20-year-old self. And then I want to give you some insight as to what I see as the factors that are going to determine and shape your path in this industry. So firstly, I don't see my career as a destination, but an evolving journey. When I look back and when you hear me talk about it, it all makes sense and the dots all join up. But when I sat where ye are 20 odd years ago, which is hard to believe, I had no idea I would get the opportunity to go a mile down inside the earth to visit a potash mine or travel around the world to understand how global consumers consume food and impact the way we farm today, or become a managing director of a fertilizer company, or write a front page for the Farmers Journal, or even be advising the bank on their future strategy as it pertains to agriculture. But somehow I have done all these things in my life. So I'll just flick to the next slide. I'm going to bring it back to the very start. So I'm the eldest of three. I'm from a tillage farm just outside Portlaoise and Stradbally in Rathneska. You'd be all familiar with, or some of you might be familiar with, where the ploughing match was. This photograph and image, I suppose, sums up my youth. I grew up tractor mad, right? Specifically Massey Ferguson mad. I couldn't get enough of farming, and I suppose, like the show there was talking about, when I was younger, I was brought to IFA marches. I never missed a plough match and never have to this day. I was taken out of school and many a day to help out in the farm. And I remember farm advisors sit at our kitchen table and crop advisors. And I suppose that's all I ever wanted to do when I grew up. And I suppose that ignited my passion for farming. And I suppose I had a plan and I knew where I was heading. So off I went to college to study ag science up in UCD. I decided to take animal crop production, and then I was going to walk crops. It was all very straightforward. I didn't really like science at school, but look, I had to go through this to get to the end goal. So while at college, I suppose my parents thought that this is what I was doing every day, 5 days a week, until I came home at the weekends to farm. While we did some of that, we also did a little bit of this, and we had great fun. And college is great fun, and I think it's important that you partake in that, and it's a great opportunity, and one that you build up great close relationships and great friendships, and many that I've held dearly since. But on a more serious note, I suppose, during that time you have practical work experience, and I ended up going to the UK to do the harvest on a proper tillage farm, as I saw it, one with 3,000 acres and plenty of big tractors to feed that machinery addiction I had. I came back and finished my final year, and then I decided to apply for a master's in crop production. I suppose this was all as I wanted, and I felt I needed to do a master's if I wanted to walk crops. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. So it was the first kind of big setback as to my career goals, I suppose. But eventually, somehow, I was offered a master's in nitrogen fertilizer and sugar beet. So this was a blessing in disguise, I suppose, because I didn't know it at the time, but it afforded me the opportunity to get to travel to Australia cut corn and the harvest out there. Now, this is in 2001, 2002, probably most of you weren't even born, I'd say. But it was an amazing experience, and it's a lot different to going to Australia these days because there were no mobile phones, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook. You were going and you were gone. But it was an amazing experience. We harvested corn 24/7 on 2 crews. We were in 1,000-acre fields. We were on 100,000-acre farms. And again, I was feeding that addiction of mine. But anyway, I came back and I completed my master's over the coming or the next 18 months. And unfortunately, as some of you might be aware, I am the holder of the most useless masters in sugar beet because the sugar beet industry shut down. So thankfully, I suppose, to me and to my luck, I suppose my master's also looked at fertilizer. So I was offered a job with TMAC Fertilizer. It's a French fertilizer company, and I was going to become, I was made production manager. So it involved a lot of travel to France and a lot of translation. So I was using all that Leaving Cert French, which was very useful. So I spent a year at this, and then I went into, I'm just going to flick to the next slide. I went into the family-owned grain merchant, Cooney Furlong, to walk crops in Wexford. So I suppose what that was, I finally had, maybe in a little bit of a roundabout way, I had that job that I always wanted. However, after a few months of it, I wasn't exceptionally happy with it. After all the years of wanting it and all the years of thinking I wanted it, I felt unchallenged. And one day I went to my boss and I said, look, I don't really like this. I'm going to go off. I'm heading off to Thailand with my friends for 3 weeks. And when I get back, I said to him that I wanted to have a job in his other company, which was Target Fertilizers. It was a very risky strategy, but somehow it worked for me. So I packed my bags again and I came back to work in the startup at the time, Target Fertilizers. So for me, this experience was completely formative. It taught me the value of hard work, discipline, long hours, 100-hour weeks, sales, winning, building a company from the ground up, managing people, and then coping with failure. I knew I was lacking the business knowledge and the language as I was doing this job. So I decided that I needed to go back, and that was the reason why I did the MBA, to get some business language, because I had done an ag science degree. I knew everything from how to grow a crop, but I didn't know, I suppose, the accountancy, the marketing, all that kind of stuff that I needed to within that job. So as the company grew, I suppose I was very lucky in that I was promoted and I was moved from product manager. Then I was in operations. So I was looking after haulage and hauliers and logistics and all that. And eventually then I was over all the purchasing, and I was running the company. And I was very lucky, and I have that second picture there on the right-hand side. It's not me, but I suppose this is, the image that it reminds me of. I suppose I was traveling around the world on planes, trading fertilizer in multi-million euro deals. One day I could be buying fertilizer or ship of urea in Egypt worth €1 million, and the next I could be in Lithuania buying 5,000 tons of can. It was an amazing opportunity. I was in my late 20s. I was getting to go to these amazing places on company money and time. And it was just absolutely fascinating. So over that time, I suppose, and that bottom picture there shows me down in a potash mine, which is a mile down into the ground. So I suppose after 10 years of that in that company, I felt I had done and delivered what I could do and what I could bring to that company. I had grown up, I'd say, as well. I felt my job was done, and I had outgrown the company, so it was time for a change. I was in my early 30s at this stage. I was living in Wexford. I had dedicated my life to the job. I had my own house. I was financially secure. So I decided, right, look, let's pack this in and take some time out for me at this stage. And so I decided to take out 6 months out. Looking back on it, it was the best decision I ever made. It was highly risky. And I took a step back in my career to focus on myself. And to do that, I suppose I took a a decision to take some time, and I traveled, or within that time, I traveled to do the Camino de Santiago. Some of you might have heard of it. It's an 800-kilometer walk across northern Spain. It takes about 33 days. It's both physically enduring and mentally stimulating in the same degree. But it was absolutely crucial for me to reflect, I suppose, on what I had gone and what I had done at that stage of my career. I didn't know where I was going future-wise, but I thought I owed it to myself to give myself some time. So while I was on the Camino, I can remember the exact village I was in, and I got a phone call from Justin McCarthy, who's the editor and the CEO of the Farmers Journal, and he was looking for a new agribusiness editor. And you know, it felt like it was the right opportunity to take at that time in my career. So I was absolutely blown away with this offer. So I finished the Camino, came back, and I started into the role. And I suppose what that role gave me was access to the leaders of these agribusiness companies, the minister, and whether there were people in the Irish industry or global industry. And I got to travel significantly as well. It was difficult. It was relentless, coming up with new content every week to fill the pages of the Farmers Journal. But it was fascinating, and I was very, very proud to work for such an iconic brand. I got to travel around the world, and many a time I was told that I was spending more time out of the country than in it. So I knew at that stage that it was probably time to rein it in and bring back and just be a little bit more visible in the office. But I want to just let you in on, and hopefully I'm okay for time, on a little story that Justin McCarthy gave me. When I started, he gave me a cutting from the Financial Times newspaper, and he said he wanted the agribusiness coverage in the journal to be known for these three values. And the three values I've held very dearly to myself ever since, and I use them a lot in what I do every day and in any role I've had. And that is authority, integrity, and accuracy. And they're great guiding principles. So in agribusiness, I always said that the numbers never lie. So I always have followed the numbers to uncover the truth. And I hope that I would have done that through my time in the Farmers Journal. It was an absolutely brilliant place to work. It still is. While there were tough stories and they were difficult to write and they had to be handled delicately, I look back fondly on them, and I learned a lot and was afforded, I learned a lot, and I suppose I was delighted to have the opportunity to work for the voice of Irish farmers, and I suppose I got to meet the dealer. So that brings me up to what I do today. Like I said, I never applied for a job that I've got. I was approached by Bank of Ireland to head up the agri sector. I thought I could stay doing what I could do for the rest of my life, or I could go out and try something new and get great experience with Bank of Ireland. It was a difficult decision and one that didn't come lightly. So 12 months in, I'm very happy with the decision. What do I do today? I advise the bank on all things agri in terms of the risk and the opportunity, and I also represent the bank within the sector. Interestingly, I started the job 12 months ago. I've never met my colleagues. I've never worked anywhere but from my sitting room here, like this, wearing like this, and I haven't gone to anything. So for the past, 365 days of working, minus the weekends, I've worked from here. So that's my job today, is working for the bank from my sitting room. So with that, I just want to bring you just through very briefly what advice I'd give my 20-year-old self. So again, I'd say that looking back on all that, and as you've heard me talk, it looks like a nice straight line. He's from a farm, he did ag, he did a master's, he worked for 2 fertilizer companies, worked his way up to the boss of the fertilizer company, did a business master's and became the ag biz editor, and then landed a nice cozy number for the bank. But life doesn't work that way. Circumstances change, we change. And that's why I titled the talk, Be Different. What I mean by that is be you, be unique. Each one of you is different. I knew when I was 20, I was different, but I didn't have the confidence to express my difference. So I'd ask you to find that confidence within yourselves. My second piece of advice would be to give myself the ability to find your passion and find it early, because passion will drive your interest in what you do. You need to love what you do every day. I don't know if I didn't know I would love any of the work that I did, but I eked out my passion every time I did that job. And thirdly is to be curious with a healthy degree of curiosity. I think this will serve you well in life. Be hungry for knowledge and curious to understand. And lastly is to trust your gut. Only you know your values and beliefs. They may be buried. So as you're so young and as you're experiencing different pieces in life, but be confident in yourself, stand up for yourself. You may not know what you want to be like, but take that baby step of the first job offer you get. It might be the right job for you, but if you don't like it, you can always change. You might learn to love it, but taking the decision is key. And finally, just some of the things that I think will happen in your working careers over the next 10 to 20 years. So just taking a moment to reflect on these. First of all, there's going to be 9 billion people. Today, there's 7 billion people in the world. So that means in the next 10 or 20 years, there's going to be 2 billion people more, 30% more people on this planet than in the next 15 years. That means they're going to need double the amount of food to eat. But more importantly, inside that circle that's on the screen there covers Southeast Asia. More people are going to live inside that circle than outside it. So that means that China is going to become more and more important over your working careers. The world is also, I think, going to become more carbon neutral. This is going to be the climate, and it's going to become the biggest agenda item, particularly for ag. People are going to eat more dairy than they drink in the form of cheese and food ingredients. Food will be eaten with the eyes, so that, you know, the Instagram generation is going to become more important. So how food looks is going to become more important. And companies like Starbucks that you're all familiar with, they're the companies that are going to bring protein and food to the poorest countries in the world. It's not going to be the governments. So it's going to be the big brands. So none of us know what these trends are going to be. 20 years ago, when I started out, I was a fool for thinking that for selecting ag during the Celtic Tiger years. I should have been an engineer, a builder, you know, go into tech. But I always go back to what my grandmother said. And she said, once in your life, you will need a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman, or a priest. But every day, 3 times a day, you're going to need a farmer. So I think great advice. And I'm going to leave you now on these two last bits. The two big pictures that from times, I suppose, what I would call it inspiration in my life. The first is doing the New York Marathon, but it wasn't about the 26 miles on a chilly October morning in New York. It was about the journey started 7 months earlier, where you're running your first mile in your life. And the second, again, was the Camino, and it's not about getting to Santiago on the western coast of Spain. It's about that journey along the way, the blisters, the long days, the laughs, the friends. So I think just as you set out beginning your career and your life journey, my one parting piece of advice is to travel often, do what you love, get lost along the way, which will not only be exciting, but it'll also help you find yourselves. What I want to say to you is I wish you the best of luck in your journeys. Thanks for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Owen. That was excellent. Thank you so much for that. You brought me back to my days of ag science. I'm also a graduate from agricultural science in UCD. And with that, the first question I'm going to ask you, what did ag science look like, and did it meet your expectations when you went to the course? Because I remember when I was going and applying for UCD in Waterford for ag science, I was so looking forward to it. It was all I wanted. It was all I put on my CAO. How did you feel about it, and how was it when you went?
Yeah, it was quite similar. It was my first and nearly only choice. That's what I was going to do. I was extremely nervous because, you know, you're moving out of home for the first time. You're moving to Dublin. You're moving into, at the time I moved into Diggs. That was what you did in the day. And just even the experience of UCD, it's a big place. You know, I went to a relatively small school of 600 people, and this was into UCD of thousands. The class itself had about 100 people, roughly about 100 people in it. And that in itself is quite daunting, but there's great camaraderie and great friendship. Everyone's in the same boat, and there's great societies and things like that. It's you know, those first few weeks are probably a little bit challenging, but then you make friends quickly, like, so it's great.
Absolutely. And did you find it daunting, Owen, when you went in first? Because I know the first year of it is quite tough, general science only. And I was a bit naive going into it myself, and I found it quite hard, but I did get through it. How did you find the first year of Ag Science?
Yeah, I think you have to be confident that if you have your Leaving Cert, it does take work. There's no, I remember it was tough, you know, plenty of hours put in the library before the exams. The science part was tough for me. It wasn't my natural, you know, I suppose ability. So yeah, that was tough. I had to put in a lot of hours to it, but it was more difficult than Leaving Cert science subjects.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. It's just so that young people are prepared. If you are going for agricultural science, just be aware that the first year of it is all science and maths. And then after the first year, you specialize, which you mentioned there at the start, that you went and you specialize in animal and crop production.
And it does get easier and more interesting as you go through it. So I think it's to keep the end in mind if people are thinking about it. So by the end, you're specializing on dairy, and you're doing dairy management or beef management or crop management, whatever, grass management. It's, you know, and you're out on practical side, out on farms in your third year, and then in third and fourth year, you're out in Lyons Estate. If you go to UCD, you're dealing with animals and crops and the practical side of things.
Excellent, yeah. And it is, and as you said, there's such a huge family of agriculture in Ireland, really. Like, even for this, we were able to promote through the Farmers Journal, through the ASA, and everyone is friends. Mcgrath, we're all friends still through it. It's a big network. So definitely, if anyone is interested in going for agricultural science, it is a career path. I know, looking back 20 odd years ago, Owen, but as your grandmother is correct, you will always need a farmer. And farmers need that support as well, and that's where agricultural science is so important. Yeah,
absolutely. It is a great career, and there's a great network of people in it, and it spans a wide range of disciplines. You know, from farmers all the way to the Minister for Ag, for example. You know, so you know, it's a very interesting career.
Absolutely. And it gives you opportunities as well through marketing and communications as well. It's not just all science or agriculture. It really is a wide scope of degree. So good luck to anyone that is going forward for that. Tara here has a question. What type of work are you doing with Bank of Ireland? You were very coy about it. So what is it? Spill the beans.
Yeah, so like, I suppose every day is different. The big part, I suppose, of it, or let's say if we take the most important part, is probably to look at what the risk is. So I'm looking at the challenges maybe that might be facing the sector. For example, Brexit, the impact of COVID on farmers and their income. So we're looking at money that we've lent out to the sector and said, right, are we afraid of not getting that money back in? Is there anything that's going to change in the economy that might change whether farmers will lend or borrow more, or will need to borrow more, or need to borrow less? And so that's one element of it. So it's looking at what's happening out in the world and bringing that into the bank. The other part is then, you know, making sure that our farmers are supported. So what products do they need as they go about their day-to-day business? For example, 2018, we had a terrible drought. So we would have developed a product that would allow farmers to be better able to buy feed during the summer months. So they would get greater access to credit. So it's coming up with products like that. And then thirdly, I suppose, is engaging with government, ministers, the industry, the stakeholders in the IFA, and other agribusiness in the industry, just to get to feel the pulse and make sure that we understand what farmers require, and that the industry understands what we can offer as well.
Excellent. Owen, I have a question here from Maureen. I know it came in during the show, but is there any future for small farmers in the west of Ireland? Most sons of small farmers are told to do farming part-time, as there is not enough money in farming. to support a young farmer, not to mention a family or a small farmer? What do you reckon on that?
Yeah, I fundamentally believe there is a great, bright future for small farmers. If we look at how, and I mentioned the 2 billion people extra, where are those farmers, or sorry, those mouths going to be fed from? And it's not by industrial sized, you know, and I'm talking globally here, farms getting bigger and bigger. It's going to be all the farmers pulling their weight to feed those mouths. And I think this is going to be the biggest opportunity for farmers. However, there is, I suppose, a scale element to it. We all know that you can't survive if you have 30 acres on it alone anymore. That day is gone. The average size farm in Ireland is 80 acres. The average cow herd is nearly 100 cows at this stage. This is the economics, because the costs of living and the costs of farming keep continuing to rise, the cost of tractors. So you need to have enough scale to give yourself as a farmer enough of an income or a good quality of life. Yes, you can farm in a smaller way, but I agree with that comment though. I would love to see more farmers full-time farming. I think it's very difficult to part-time farm, but the reality is part-time farming is what can work for many people who own a piece of land that isn't large enough to sustain them full-time.
And Sylvia is after coming in with a question. It kind of carries on from that last question. Have you heard of urban farmers? I suppose the small farmers are the ones that are going to prosper a lot more during this urban revolution as such. You know, that we're going to, or the, not urban revolution, but what I mean is that, you know, the organic farming and stuff like that is going to really take off. And I suppose the urban farming now that's happening, I suppose the Green Party, Eamon Ryan mentions this a lot, you know, the boxes in the windows and stuff like that. I think we are all being educated on them. So
yeah, and I think that's a great I suppose benefit to the sector, because the more people that live in towns and cities that are farming or growing something on their windowsills, the more people will understand the challenges that farmers have, and will understand where their food comes from, and understand that farmers do good, and you know, they're not these big environmental they're not causing damage to the environment or causing damage to the welfare of animals. So by having more people involved, even at a small scale, in some kind of growing or farming, that's a positive thing for the industry.
Just to come back to and finish off with Sylvia, can you mention again the future job market? Do you have a sense of what jobs are needed for the future going?
Yeah, like within the industry, Jim. Yeah. So within the industry, I think there's a huge potential. Like you can see just from the outline of my career, how many ebbs and flows there are, and there's huge opportunity within it. Farming will continue. It's not a sunset industry. And there's going to be more jobs become available, because if I look at the age group and the demographic of people, I would see that there are a lot of, you know, older people in this industry, and as they retire, that's where the opportunity is going to be, and that's going to be great because you can move up within companies if there's an older demographic as well.
Very good. Owen, thank you so much for your time this evening. We'll move on. There is another question after coming in there, but we'll get to it at the end. Is that okay? Back to you, Brian.
Okay, thanks a million, Owen, for that. So we're going to move on now to Andrew, last but not least. So as I said in my introduction, Andrew is a vet working in a mixed animal practice. I think I have the right term there. I had to ask somebody that. Andrew, welcome to the panel. So you might just tell us a little bit about yourself, Andrew, like your background, where you're from. Are you from an agricultural background? Why you got into veterinary? Was it something you always wanted to do, or was it something you accidentally fell into and now you can't escape?
There's a lot of questions there. I can't remember the first one.
Don't worry.
I know I hail from Castletowngagan there, County Westmeath, just outside Mullingar, between Mullingar and Kilbegan. So we're finishing cattle there at home. So it's probably probably hugely the reason why I went into veterinary, as there's not a whole lot of money to be made out of beef, to be honest. So that's partly the reason. But yeah, I went to school in Colostra Murra in Mullingar, but unfortunately I didn't get enough points in the Leaving Cert out of St. Mary's Mullingar. So I went to the Institute of Education in Dublin in Leeson Street. So that's where I repeated. And lucky enough, I got enough points. I got 575. It was actually supposed to be 580, but the year I done it, in 2015, the Leaving Cert, the points went down by 5. So it was a kind of a stroke of luck, really. So, and even at that, you're not fully sure that you'll get in. It was on a lottery basis getting into veterinary, because the points are so high. It's probably even harder to get in now. Well, it's not, as I think you can do work experience now in like your local veterinary practice, like, and you build up a certain amount of points, and you have to do that in order to get in. So it's kind of really like a HPAC for veterinary, really, but probably not as hard as that, to be honest. But yeah, so that's me. Yeah, that's me.
So that's how. It's a 5-year course. I'm right, isn't it?
It is, yeah. A lot of people say to me, probably the elder people, they kind of say it's 7-year course, but it actually, no, it's 5-year course in UCD. But it used to be in Ballsbridge. The campus used to be in Ballsbridge, and actually moved to Belfield, out the south side of Dublin. So it is the only veterinary college in Ireland. So if you don't get in, or you can't get enough points, or whatever happens, you'll have to go abroad. But there's a good few places you can go abroad. There's I think it's Warsaw, and Budapest, and I think Slovakia. I think you can actually go. But apparently there's a new college going to be opened up in the north of Ireland. I think it's in Derry, I think. So that's going to be it's going to make a lot more places available to students or to Leaving Certs that want to go down the veterinary route, I suppose.
Okay, great. And is it a tough course?
I suppose it is, yeah. It depends what way you look at it. If you want to go down the small animal route, it's probably more difficult in terms of going specialising, I suppose, if you want to further on in your veterinary career. Whereas your large animal kind of work is if you're able for hardship, like show there, if you're able for hardship, you'll get on just fine. So that's the way. So that's, yeah. But the veterinary course, it is very difficult, you know. So it's probably more difficult, to be honest, this year, or the year I done final year exams, because the exams are kind of done online, and some of the exams were done as a webinar, kind of exactly like this on Zoom. So that was a bit nerve-wracking, you know, that way. So you weren't as, you know, psyched out as you would going into the Leaving Cert, you know. You're like a machine going into the Leaving Cert, you know. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you have done any work experience in, say, when you were in UCD, or was it just all book work?
I did as much as work experience as I could, to be honest. I went all around. I did a good few weeks in my local practice there in Auburn Veterinary Hospital in Mullingar, and I also went to a load of different places. I went to Bandon, West Cork. One of my friends is down there. He's a pig farmer, and I also went out to California. One of my housemates here, the two of us went out to Central California. So that was an experience. So we had the weekends off, luckily. So went to Yosemite and Santa Barbara, all those kind of places you see in the movies there. So it's kind of a bit surreal. So we're back in County Longford here now. So between Moydu and Arda. So that's where we're at now. So loads of sculling and loads of sections and cesarean. So brought back down to earth now after that.
Back down to earth. So when you finished in UCD, is it easy to get work, or is it hard to get? Is there lots of work out there for young vets?
Oh Jesus, there's absolutely buckets of work to be got. You can, all you have to do is just Google the veterinary journal there, jobs classified there, and there's about 400 million. I know there's not, but there's absolutely loads and loads. Like the jobs, the supply can't meet the demand, as a lad would say, you know. So the jobs is about picking the right one for you, you know, in terms of rotas and all that, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah.
So there is, well, I suppose that's good to know, because, you know, sometimes you hear of people who do courses and then they finish and there is no job. So you would say there's definitely jobs there.
Oh, absolutely. Like I probably the pick of my jobs, to be honest. I actually started off in Thurles, County Tipperary and I kind of I only kind of lasted 6 months there. To be honest, COVID and stuff like that, you know, I kind of wanted to come home as well. So stuff like that. So that's why I came back up nearer to home. Ballymahon is where I'm working at the moment, and it's about 15 minutes away from home. So it's nice to be able to go home and be able to live with the lads as well at the same time, you know.
Yeah, which is good. So typical working day, is there a thing?
There's not, no, absolutely not. Typical working day, it could start at any time. It could start at 6:30. It could start at 7:30, 9 o'clock. It really depends on the day. For instance, there I was on call last night. I finished at 11:30. And I was up again at 7:30. Like show there, sure. We're all busy. We're all kind of in it together during the spring. So hopefully the summer might be a bit more relaxing. But there's be a lot of TB testing going on to keep us busy during the summer there. So that's a huge part of large animal work. So that sort of thing.
And you mentioned cesareans and things like that. So I suppose during the calving season that would be busy.
Yeah, hugely. Yeah, the cesareans is a in this part of the neck of the woods. It's a lot of cesarean section. So the farmers around here are trying to breed a big suckler cow and a big suckler calf for the beef units around. Generally in kind of West Meath, Kildare, Meath direction, but down here in Longford, it's the suckler cow is predominantly the cow that's around here, whereas where show is and down in Wexford there a lot of dairy, you know, so it's a different kind of work, you know. It's probably has a lot of place of amazements, you know. That's a twisted gut for, I suppose, people that don't know what a displace of amazement is, but amazement is the fourth part of the rumen or a fourth part of the stomach, so it gets twisted after calving for a variety of different reasons. So probably so. But,
and do you do any small animals at all?
I do a good bit, yeah, but probably not as much as I'd like to, because I'm so busy in the large with cattle, you know. I didn't stop going since 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm only in the door there shortly before this now, so the belly's rumbling here now at the moment.
So what you're telling us is, you know, it's long day, just similar, I suppose, to what Show said. You know, it's a long day, it's tough work, but you like it. I get the sense of you. Like sometimes, you know, you get a great sense that it's something you have a passion for it. Yeah,
I suppose I do. Like kind of, you have to be really, to be a vet. Really, I think the most important part is you have to be. Yes, you have to be not brainy, but you have to be a people's person. You have to be able to not handle people, but you have to be able to have the crack, I suppose. You know, farmers, like they're happy go. You know, not happy go on. You know what I mean? They don't want a man coming in to tell them and talking down to them, that sort of thing. You know, it's hard to explain, really.
I know. Yeah.
But I do enjoy it, to be honest. But it probably comes the large side of it, the cattle side of it, comes kind of probably natural to me, because it's with cattle at home, you know. So well, a little bit of hardship. So that's
so it's predominantly cattle that you're dealing with at the minute.
It is a lot of sheep around here as well.
There would be
horses as well, but a lot of sheep around here. Ewes, lamb, and ringworm and stuff like that, you know. So it's nice work, but it can be difficult at times, you know, and tiredness can come into it as well. So to keep keep there driving along, you know. But music as well, I suppose. I have a Spotify playlist there. I might have questionable music taste, but it'll get you in the groove there, you know. You have to be on song there every time you drive into a yard, you know. So you kind of have to be always kind of on edge, like, you know.
And so you work like it's not a 9 to 5 job. We know that. No, so you work at night.
Oh yeah, like last night.
Like how often would you have to do like an overnight work, say?
Well, the rota that I have in our practice is 1 and 3. So 1 and 3 rotas means you're on every third weekend. So from 6 o'clock Friday evening, the other 2 vets are gone, and you're on call then from 6 o'clock Friday evening until Monday morning and 9 o'clock. You know, so night and day. You know, so it's difficult, but it's probably even more difficult for a recent graduate like myself. There's times there that you'd have to ring the boss, you know what I mean, that you're you know, you're not that you're out of your depth, but you want the job to go right too, you know. So in all walks of life you kind of have to be guided along, as Show is there, you know, his workers there, do you know what I mean. He showed him how to do, and they probably showed him how to do a few things as well, you know. So that's just the way of life, really. So you just try your best, and that's all you can do.
And I suppose that's true. Like, I mean, you finish off in UCD, and you just sort of become this knowledge-based person who's, yeah, as you said, going into farms at night, who, you know, is meant to know everything. So I suppose it from that point of view, it's.
Geez, I tell you one thing, I don't know everything now, but all you do is you try your best, to be honest. But in terms of night work there, I'm this week now, I'm on call Tuesday night, and I'm on call tomorrow night as well. So you're on 2 nights a week, like. But there during the spring there, sure. It was one night I remember particularly. I went to bed at 5:30, or it was at 6 o'clock, and I was up again at 7 o'clock, or 10 to 7 there. So that ewes and cows, they don't allow for you to sleep, you know. So that's one thing, especially during the springtime. You have to kind of it's just no more than a show there, but no more than every dairy farmer. We're all in it together, really. So we all feel the pinch during the spring there, you know. So that's about it, you know.
Yeah. If there's someone here tonight, you know, and they're thinking, oh, I'd really like to be a vet.
Yeah.
Would you tell them go for it?
Sure, I probably would. Yeah. I probably would. Yeah. Like, you don't know where you're going to end up, like, during the day. Like, yeah, you'll be around your practice in the hinterland, but you actually don't know what you're going to be doing and who you're going to meet. Like, they're just there. Yesterday I was coming out of a farm, and I met the parish priest that used to be the parish priest in my local village there, Father Murphy, and he's now the parish priest there. I think he's retired now, but I haven't seen him since I was about 7 years old. Like, so I was just driving along, and he never changed a bit. Like, so being able to drive along the road and just you wouldn't know who you'd meet, you know, that sort of a way. So it's lovely that way, you know. You're with the people the whole time, you know. So that's a huge part of what we do, like, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose it's about being a people's person.
Yeah.
And getting used to dealing with people. So last question I have for you.
Yeah.
Are there any challenges with your role?
Oh, challenges. There's a good few, all right. Challenges, probably tiredness. The physical side of it is a challenge too. You have to be able for sort of a thing, you know. So it's a hugely demanding job. More than show there, you know, milking cows every morning and evening. Like, those cows have to be milked, you know, otherwise they'll get mastitis, or he has to provide milk in the tank, so he has to provide bread on the table. It's more than ourselves. Like, when that phone rings, you have to answer it, you know, and you could be in the shower, or, you know what I mean, you have to ring back as quick as possible. So, like, that man would be in trouble. There's a reason why he's ringing you. So if you don't answer the phone, things don't get sorted out, you know. So that's the way of the world, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Okay, so I can see, Andrew, you'll be delighted to know there's lots of Qs in the Q&A box. So I'm going to hand over now to Jim, so we can get through those. So they might even answer, you know, there's no point in me keeping asking questions when there's loads there. So thanks a million, Andrew.
Right, no bother at all. Thanks, Bernard.
How are you, Andrew? God, I thought I was watching the Blair Witch Project there for a while, watching your video, but I'm glad you turned on the.
I'm too young to understand what that means, Jim. There.
The night came in on you there, didn't it?
They did, yeah. They did all right, yeah. And that's a sign of no money being a young, recent graduate. No
A
money.
recent graduate, I know, I remember it well.
Electricity bill came near yesterday now, so.
Andrew, there's a good few questions coming in, but I can group them actually together.
Okay.
Rachel is asking, is there an alternative route to veterinary? And also, would you recommend veterinary nursing and working your way up to becoming a vet in the future? Would that be a way?
Yeah, the first question there was alternative route to veterinary. I presume that means probably to bypass the points, I presume. So they're kind of similar sort of question. To bypass the points, yeah, I had the same kind of question myself when I was thinking about what to do and how to get into veterinary, to be honest, because the points are so high. But to be honest, I went with the route of study as hard as I could, give it my all, try and get in to UCD, because hurling was a huge part of and it still is. I play hurling, senior hurling with Castletown, and so I tried as hard as I could to get into veterinary, and it paid off. Do you know what I mean? So if you strive to be the best you can, studying, I know it's hard at times, and believe me, I was there, like, so, but it just paid off for me. But yes, you can go down other routes in terms of, you could do ag science. You could try and do ag science in UCD. You could try and do ag science anywhere else if you wanted to, and you can get in the back door through ag science or through food animal science, you know, stuff like that. So yes, that's definitely a way you can get in, you know. So yeah.
So there's always alternative ways to get into something, but don't give up is your message.
Oh, absolutely, try the best you can, you know. So that absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Andrew, how did you decide whether you wanted to work with small animals or large livestock?
Say that again, sorry.
So how did you decide whether you wanted to work on the small animal aspect or the large livestock?
I suppose it kind of changes every day, really. It depends if does this mean like what kind of work I choose, you know, or the work I do during the practice during every day, or? Yeah.
So are you like how would you go about what are you working with? You're with the larger animals at the moment, are you?
Yeah, generally, nearly every day I'm working with large, but sometimes when another vet has to go somewhere else, or he's gone out on a call that has taken longer, I cover the smalls, you know what I mean? So the smalls is generally every evening, consults are in the evening time from 4 to 6, and surgery is in our Wednesday and Thursday. So a lot of the time that I'm doing a good bit of herd health work with farmers and scanning cows, so that takes up a huge amount of time as well. So stuff like that.
Andrew, I suppose the question is, which one do you prefer, small or large?
Large, cattle, all right, yeah. Cattle, yeah, absolutely. I know, absolutely, but you try your best, you know.
Okay. I'm going to take it you would recommend veterinary. Darragh Long wants to know.
Sorry, absolutely would, yeah. If he's able for hardship, and he knows the hardship there with Massey Ferguson's and John Deere's there, so cattle, you know, farming and veterinary is more or less the same thing. The only difference is you're driving around a Jeep to all different farmers, or a show there, he's on the same farm every day, you know, so it's very similar work, you know.
So I was in UCD myself, and that's where you went. You were 5 years there. How was vet college for you? Did you find you had time for clubs and sports at UCD?
I suppose I did, yeah. It was good crack now. There's 2 boys here in the house. We were classmates together, and we're actually living together now, so we're all vets in Longford, so a huge part of college is fun and crack and hurling. So I played hurling with UCD, all right. I played fresher hurling and I played junior hurling, but I was heavily involved with my local club at home. So to be honest, I was training more so at my club. I used to be going up and down the N4 every evening there, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The study took a bit of a hit during that period of time, but we got through it in the end. But yeah, hurling is a big part there, all right, in college. UCD did a very good hurling team, Fitzgibbon, but in terms of Fitzgibbon hurling, UL is University Limerick is probably the best there is, you know. All the Munster there. Sorry.
Andrew, what subjects did you pick for the Leaving Cert? Matthew would like to know.
Matthew, I done French, Irish, maths, French, biology, chemistry, and ag science. That's what I did. So I done ag science, chemistry, and biology. and then I did French. All right, yeah, same as Owen there. Got an A1 and got an A1 in French there now, so I was happy enough with that. But yeah, Ag Science was probably my favorite subject, and during college there it was a part-time job. I actually worked in Leeson Street there in Institute, so I worked for the Ag Science teacher there. So I still like veterinary. You have to be a vet, you have to understand farming really. That'd be a total basic in my opinion. You have to understand what Show is trying to do there. He's trying to produce milk as efficiently as possible. He's trying to keep his cows as healthy as possible. He has to keep his mastitis down, his SECs down, in terms of the somatic cell counts, stuff like that, you know. So you have to understand what he's trying to do. Then the beef man is trying to produce beef as cheap as possible, because the factory, most of the time, as the IFA would say, they're not given the best price, you know, that farmers are entitled to. So to be a vet, you have to understand what fellas are trying to do. After that, things come very easy, you know.
Very good. Now, Andrew, if I was to talk to Mr. Flanagan from the CBS in Mullingar,
What?
would he give a highly good recommendation for you, or what kind of student were you in school?
Mr. Flanagan, I presume that's young Mr. Flanagan from Longford.
Mr. Flanagan, Malachi Flanagan, what would he say about you as a student?
Do you know him? I never had him, all right, but he had a happy stick there now. If you ever got out of the line, he'd know how to use it. But so you can say that to him. But a sound man. What, I forget what the question was. What
would he say? What kind of a student were you?
I didn't have him, to be honest, but he was a sound man. My sister actually repeated in CBS as well. There was a repeat year then. She had Malachi, all right, but he was a sound man. He mad into us football there as well. So he managed the CBS team. I didn't really played hurling all right in CBS, but I didn't play football now.
Well, Andrew, let me see. I'll just.
Jeez, there's so many questions.
You're here, all right. Yeah, I think your biggest fans are probably living beside you right there. Actually, they're in kissing distance, I'd say.
They are. They got to go into the room. I had the room locked here, and they're out there breaking into the room here. So yeah. I'm under pressure.
So, how much does location in the country affect what you do as a vet, and how successful are you in the industry?
I suppose the location is you have to be within shouting distance really of the client. So I'm living between Ard and Moydu, which is about 15 minutes away from Ballymahan. So we were trying to get a house for ages to be able to live together. Connor is in Granard. He's working in Granard there, and the other man, Carol, he's working in Longford Animal Health Centre. So we kind of had to get a house between the three of us, you know, so to be fair to everyone. So we got it in the end and we're happy enough. So that's about the location, all right, yeah.
Andrew, Rachel is asking, what would you do if you want to do veterinary but haven't picked chemistry for the leaving cert?
Say that again, sorry.
So Rachel wants to know, what would you do if you want to do veterinary but you hadn't picked chemistry for the leaving cert?
Oh, I think you have to do chemistry, to be honest, to be able to do a veterinary. To be honest, I think it's actually a requirement. So to be able to get into UCD, I think you have to have chemistry done. But also to get into Warsaw or Budapest, the entrance exam is very hard, and a lot of it is chemistry, you know. So yeah.
Okay, Andrew, thanks so much. Is there any other questions there from the floor for anyone else? No? No one yet? Okay, right. Okay, there's a few questions there I can ask as well. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question to Show. Show, Maria wants to know, will you be behind if you didn't grow up with a farming background?
Say that again, Jim, if I didn't grow up with a...
If Maria wants to know, would you be behind if you didn't grow up in a farming background?
Behind?
Behind is like, would it be difficult to get involved in farming if you weren't from a farming background?
Involved, it wouldn't be difficult to get involved in farming. It might be quite difficult to acquire a farm, but to get involved in farming, no.
Okay, very good.
There's lots.
And to become a vet, Andrew, hopefully it has calmed down up in Andrew's place there.
Daniel. chair in here, so excuse that. Sorry, go on.
You're all right. So, Andrew, Marie wants to know, would it be difficult to become a vet if you didn't grow up farming?
Would it be difficult to be a vet if you weren't a farmer? Not really. If you wanted to be a small animal vet, there'd be no problem. But I'd say there's no problem in large. But you're not at you're at a disadvantage. But it's kind of harder to know what to say to a farmer and when to say it. You know, that sort of a thing. It's I wouldn't worry about it now. If you wanted to do veterinary, do veterinary. And really, if you were not a farmer, it wouldn't really matter. You know.
Okay, very good. Can you go from being a nurse to a vet, or what do you have to do?
No, you can't. If you're studying to be a vet nurse, you have to be. If you're studying to be a vet nurse, you're a vet nurse. You can't really transfer from being a veterinary nurse to be a vet. You know, it's either one or the other. You know, you can't just transfer halfway through veterinary nursing to get into veterinary medicine. It's a total different curriculum. You know.
Okay, very good. What other jobs would you be able to do with a veterinary course besides being a vet?
Jesus, a good few. You could go into the Department of Agriculture, and there'd be no night duty anyway. So that's one thing anyway. You can be a pharmaceutical. You can go into pharmaceutical companies there, namely MSD or Zoetis. There's a many number of them there. You could go into herd health, you could go into anything basic. You go in, work in a laboratory, you could be a pathologist basically, like a state pathologist. Cattle that are sick or that die, unfortunately, you know, they're sent to the lab and to be investigated to see why they died. So that's another job of a vet, you know. There's loads of different avenues. You could go back to UCD if you wanted to be a lecturer even. You know, so that's another possibility that, you know.
Okay, very good. Where can you go to do veterinary abroad, Andrew, if you know that?
Yeah, I think Warsaw in Poland. I think I'm pretty sure Warsaw is in Poland. Warsaw, Slovakia, Budapest. There are three. You can go to Scotland. You can go to Edinburgh. I was actually half tempted on going to Edinburgh myself. The Royal Dick College of Veterinary Medicine. It's an unreal college, and during my stay in UCD, we actually went on farm animal. There's a thing called FABS. It's a Farm Animal Veterinary Society Congress. So all attendees of the Congress can meet up with all the other veterinary students from all the other colleges in England, in London, Royal Veterinary College, Bristol, Surrey, Liverpool, Edinburgh, and Dublin as well. We were deemed the mad crew that went to that congress. So it was good fun, good crack, you know. So that's all part of it.
Very good. Do you work with any exotics or wildlife, Andrew?
Yeah, I suppose we work for the National ISPCA. So only last week there, I had a fox coming into me there. So poor little fella, I think he had a sore leg there now. So we had to sort him out, you know. So every so often you'd have an exotic species coming into you there, all right, rabbits and guinea pigs and stuff like that, you know. So it's tricky work, you know. You have to be a little bit more careful with your movements of your arms and your body, basically, because they're a prey species, I suppose, 9 times out of 10. So that's one thing that you have to do.
Very good. And Michelle is asking, I would like to build my own practice when I become a vet. Am I better off to join and work for someone else first?
Michelle has big ambitions now, so she has. Is she better off to join and work for someone else?
Yeah.
If you started off your own practice and you open the door, electricity has to be paid for, bills, Wi-Fi, all the little nitty-gritty things to run a business, and even set up a company. I think there's a price in that as well. To go to a limited company, I'd say Show probably knows all about that, I'd say. So, but you know, like, then you have to get your client base. Even before you get your clients, you have to pay for all those things. You know what I mean? You have to build a building, basically. So very expensive to go straight out, and are you guaranteed to work? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to build your brand as well, your name as well. You have to build it. Yeah.
The farmers or clients, they're going to a veterinary practice already, so they'd want a good reason to leave that veterinary practice if they're getting on well, you know what I mean? So it's a long game. To be honest, probably joining a practice and working your way up and maybe buying into a practice, or if the boss man or the principal comes up to retirement and he looks at you, are you fit to take it on? That's probably the best way of doing it, really, and probably the easiest way of doing it, because your clients are already there, you know. So it depends what way you look at it. It depends how ambitious you are, Michelle, but I've no doubt you'll get there if you're thinking that far down the line anyway. So the best of luck.
Listen, Andrew, you were sweating there. You've got through all those questions. You did very well. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand you back to Bernie. Thank you to all three panelists. Thank you.
Sound job.
Thanks a million. That was great. So the final job of the night, guys, and I mentioned this at the start, is we're just going to launch a quick poll that has 3 short questions that we'd really love for you to fill out. You'll see it on your screen now. So just how you rated the webinar, how did you hear about it? And we just like to get an age profile of the people who are on. So we'd really appreciate if you could just fill that out for us before you leave. And just while you're doing that, on behalf of Foróige, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We hope it was beneficial and that you learned something. And of course, we'd sincerely like to thank our panelists who have given so generously of their time tonight. And without them, obviously, we couldn't host these webinars because they're the experts in the field. Foróige plan to host 14 more of these over different topics. So if you are interested in other fields, make sure that you check out the Eventbrite page and register for the other pages. And also, as we said earlier on, that there is loads of different things if people are interested in getting involved in Foróige that you can do if you want to check out our website, foróige.ie. So if you voted, and I can see nearly everybody has at this stage, so we're delighted with that. You can just end your webinar, and thanks a million, and we might see some of you again at other webinars over the weeks. Thanks a million, everybody.